So it's wonderful to see people who really do live out their passion for their beliefs, but it's confusing to see people who seem confused about it. For example, many of the people who are most passionate about the Ten Commandments being displayed in the courthouses, etc., seem to be the same people who are also pro-death penalty. They're anti-abortion, but once someone is out of the womb and no longer innocent, maybe past puberty, then it's okay to kill them. I can't really understand how it hangs together. And they want to bomb people we disagree with. Some people do say with the death penalty that it's that they don't want to spend the money to house and clothe and feed a criminal his whole life, his or her whole life, and that it's just cheaper to execute them. But when you do the research, it's actually cheaper to feed and house and clothe someone for his whole life than to execute him. With our appeals process, it costs many orders of magnitude dollars more to execute someone than to just keep them alive. And then if you have kept them alive, if it turns out with more evidence or DNA that they didn't actually do it, it's a lot easier to reverse what you've done. In seminary, we took lots of ethics classes and we had lots of ethics discussions. And what we learned was that most people thought that the teachings of Rabbi Jesus and the commandments and the teachings of most religions are really for individuals, that they work for individuals. They don't really work for big groups of people or for businesses. But now that corporations are people, I'm not sure where that's going to go. So if somebody slaps me, I can turn the other cheek. Yeah, that's my choice. But if somebody slaps you, I'm not going to turn your other cheek. That's got to be your choice, right? And if I'm the leader of a nation, if someone attacks my nation, am I just going to say, well, I have a belief that we should turn the other cheek, so that's what we're going to do as a whole nation? No, you can't really do that because you're responsible for other people. So do you have to think about it differently? Are there different ethics for businesses? Are there different ethics for leaders of countries? Are they different from the ethics of an individual? That's a fruitful conversation. I think it would be interesting to have. So most people don't take "thou shalt not kill" literally. Most people are not pacifists, and I think, I think I'm a pretty normal person, and that I would really prefer not to kill someone else. But if they were coming after my child or my grandchild, I don't think I'd have that much trouble if that were the only way to stop them. But I really believe that it's probably hardly ever the only way, and that what I would prefer to do is stun them and tie them up and put them in a room and then just talk to them like my parents used to instead of spanking me. And I think if the 600 of us took turns with a criminal in a room who was, we were just telling them how disappointed we were in their behavior, I believe pretty soon they'd be begging for death. Most biblical scholars say that this is not just a simple "thou shalt not kill" commandment, that it means more like "thou shalt not murder." And so you go, okay, that narrows it down a little bit. You shall not murder. But then the high school debate team shows up, and they're standing on your front yard and peppering you with questions. And they go, well, what is murder? And when is it killing? And when is it murder? And is the death penalty murder or killing? And is killing in war murder or killing? Is it murder when you kill someone in self-defense? Is it murder when you kill somebody in defense of someone else? And what about war? Does it have to be a just war for it not to be murder, or do you have to just be following orders for it not to be murder? And what is a just war anyway? Is there such a thing? And was World War II the last good war where people really believed that they were stopping the bad guys? And in war, if you're ordered to go to war, if you're a soldier and you're behaving according to the rules of engagement, is it murder then? But anybody who's actually been in a war knows that the lines blur so fast and so easily, and mistakes are made, and you sometimes don't know, even at the end of your life, whether what you did was just killing or whether it was murder. The theologian St. Augustine, long ago, said that a nation has to have soldiers, but they have to be reluctant soldiers. So they have to be soldiers who really don't want to be killing. So your ideal is to have an army full of people who really don't enjoy killing but will do it reluctantly. And I think that's kind of what we have. If people enjoy it too much, they're supposed to be kind of weeded out of the military. And the longer you're in it, the more experience you have with war. The military folks that I met, I was a hospital chaplain at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and so I met a lot of people of all ranks, and it seemed to me that the longer they had been in the service, the more reluctant they were about war, and the more philosophical. They were not clamoring to go bomb here or there, because they had an absolutely clear idea of what that meant and what it would cost. And then further biblical scholarship says it doesn't really even say thou shalt not murder. It says thou shalt not murder within thine own tribe. So if it's us, we don't murder. If it's them, it's cool. And that makes more sense because the people to whom the commandment was given, maybe a month later, crossed the Jordan River and started just killing because those people were in the land that their God had said was for them. And those people were there, too bad for them. And so they killed them in order to get the land. And we're still dealing with that. Last night, Israel shelled Gaza some more and leafleted the whole place saying, you better move out, move south. This is going to get bad. And it is, it's been bad. It's bad because, the Jews needed a homeland after World War II, but for some reason they just didn't want to just give them Germany, which might have been a good idea. Some of the Zionists wanted to go back to the ancestral homeland, which was then Palestine. And this is important. Lord Beaverbrook, who was in charge of this whole thing in the British government, he was an evangelical Christian, and he believed that Jesus wasn't going to come back until the temple was rebuilt on the Temple Mount, And so he pushed hard, and the British were very involved in this resettlement of the Jews. He pushed hard for them to be resettled in Palestine. So suddenly you're minding your own business, you've got your goats, you've got your dates, you've got your olives, you've got your family, you're a Palestinian, and these people come in and they say, hey, this group needs your land right now, you should move out. And because their God said that this is theirs. So, bye-bye. And we wonder why there's constant conflict there. Somebody's God comes, says, Austin is ours, and you need to move out now. Well, that's not my God. Didn't say that. I'm sorry your God said that, whatever God it is, and I'm not moving. So, you understand why this thing started so long ago, thousands of years ago, when the Hebrew people came into Palestine for the first time and started killing people because this was their promised land. So anyway, so the people to whom this commandment was given, about a month later, were going and killing other people. And they also had this other commandment that said if your child was ungovernable, you could kill your child too, which seems to me murdering within your tribe. So I'm confused. I don't know. Our morality has evolved since then. We no longer think that's okay. We no longer really, even in our culture, feel like beating up your child is okay, whereas it used to be kind of fine within reasonable limits. And beating up your spouse, not okay anymore. Child labor, not really okay anymore. In our culture, slavery, not really okay anymore. In our culture, so morality evolves. We get wiser. Some people say, how can you even have morality if you don't believe in a God? And many of us do, some of us don't, whatever. But is it from a God that morality comes, or is it kind of written on the human psyche? We can usually tell when someone has a sense of right and wrong, and then they feel like a decent person to us. And we can sometimes tell when someone doesn't seem to have a sense of right and wrong, and then we call them a psychopath, and we are nervous around them, even though they're apparently running many of the big businesses in our... I say that not because of a prejudice against big businesses, but just because that's what the scientific studies say. Apparently, if you don't have that much sense of empathy, you can go a lot farther in the capitalist system. Although there's always Ben and Jerry's. Not to eat, to comfort yourself, but the way they run their company. There's a book called The Biological Basis of Morality. Edward O. Wilson wrote it. He's currently the Pellegrino University Research Professor Emeritus in Entomology for the Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology at Harvard. He's a lecturer at Duke and a fellow of the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. And he says moral values come from human beings, aside from the question of God. Ethics arise through evolution, through the interplay of biology and culture. He says there came a point in our evolution as a human species where people realized that you went farther as a species if you cooperated within your group. So there are two elements here, and they kind of form two sides of the same coin. One is it's better for us to cooperate with us. And then there's the, if there's going to be an us, then there's also a them. That's identifying with your group is part of this. So we all identify with certain groups, and it's kind of mysterious as to how we choose the groups we identify with. New studies have started to show that there are really, in terms of biology, there are just haplogroups that are kind of multiracial, and you can't really tell by looking at somebody whether they come from your same kind of DNA mother. You trace your mitochondrial DNA back, and there are maybe 22 mothers for the whole of the human race, and so you're from group 13 and I'm from group 17 and you're from group 23, but our skin colors might be different and our hair might be different, but we're from the same group. And so if we all knew what group we were from, we could be us with these groups, you know. And if I'm from group 13, I'm gonna have a big t-shirt that says 13 on my military uniform, and if you're coming at me, you've got 13 too. Man, you're my family, I'm not gonna shoot you. Let's shoot these other people. I don't know what they're doing. Why are we shooting at each other? And so we would feel us with different people. So how do we even choose who to feel us with and who to feel them with? And by the way, people who romanticize the First Nations cultures in the United States or in the North American and the South American continents, they say, well, according to Native belief, we're all one. And yeah, they do say that. And even we're one with the trees and the rocks and the creatures. But then you look at the name for each nation, which means the people, and the names that they use for the other nations, which means the enemy. And you think, really, we're all one? Seriously? And you call yourselves the people and you call them the enemy? It seems like human nature. It's just human nature to think, us, I'm going to cooperate with us. I want to hang around with us. I want to be with us, talk to us about stuff, and them, I don't care about them so much. And you can tell how people have spiritually evolved, and I'm calling on us to spiritually evolve so that our sense of us gets broader and broader and broader, and our sense of who is them gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And you can watch people on the television with these 52,000 children who have come over our borders. There are people who are saying, you are vermin-ridden, germ-carrying children, and go back home to Mexico, even though you're from Honduras or Guatemala. And we don't care. It's down there somewhere south of our border, so get out of here. And other people are looking at the children and saying, you look like my child, and I don't want you in this situation, so I'm going to try to figure out a way to help you. There are people who look at the children and think us, and there are people who look at the children and think them. And I want us to be with the group that thinks us. That's our calling. So, the whole purpose of this sermon is to say, let's broaden our sense of us, and there are no real good answers that I know of. You might have one. But anybody who has the pure, the wonderful, the most fabulous and true answer about the death penalty or about the children on the border, I just want you to ask yourself, are you sure that you have that truth? And are you feeling a sense of self-righteousness, which is, as we all know, the basis for all bad behavior? So when you feel that flush of self-righteousness come through you, just sit down and be quiet till it goes away. We practice seeing all humans as our brothers and sisters, as our family. I love this poem by Unitarian poet E.E. Cummings. He says, "May my heart always be open to little birds who are the secrets of living. Whatever they sing is better than to know. And if people should not hear them, people are old. May my mind stroll about hungry and fearless and thirsty and supple, and even if it's Sunday, may I be wrong. For whenever people are right, they are not young." E.E. Cummings.